comes right at the beginning of your faith journey. God is good. And so what I want to do right now is I want to call Tara Shelton to come on up. And Tara is going to share her experience. And this is just pretty cool following Tyler, her son, for Tara to come on up here. And let's see. You have the microphone or that mic? This one? All right, here we go. You are all set. Would you just say, hey, Tara, give her a little hand clap just for being up here today? She's got high-tech stuff today.
My husband just put this on me. I'm not sure if he's monitoring my heart rate so he knows when to come up and rescue me or what's going on. My name is Tara. I'm married to Mark back there at the ladder. We have what? We have 5 amazing children, Tani, Tyler, Trevin, Tegan, and Malachi, who are scattered throughout here. If you were not here last week to hear Tyler and Kyle's testimonies, I encourage you to listen. I have to put my glasses on.
Or turn her way up.
So last week it was kind of a joke that this week would be my turn. Thank you, Kyle. And I was like, no way am I doing that. But then Monday morning I realized that I had started writing something on June 21st. I'm not a writer, so this was very unusual for me. Now I understand why I was prompted to write this. So here's my testimony of what God did in my life while Tyler was fighting his battle. John 10:10 says, "The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy." And that was his plan for our son. But Jesus had other plans for him. The second half of John 10:10 says, "But I come that they may have life and have it abundantly." His plan was for him to prosper and have an abundant life. Before he was even formed in my womb, God knew the path he would take. He knew the choices he would choose. He knew the journey our family would go through. He knew the heartache we would go through and the pain our son would endure. He also knew the outcome. We all have seasons or journeys we go through in life, and I feel that we all, at least for me, have different testimonies from the different seasons in my life. This was an 8-year journey of heartache, faith, trust, and growing we went on as a family. Don't get me wrong, there were also many, many good times during that 8 years. When Satan gets a hold of our kids, he fights hard to keep them. I once saw a saying of the hardest thing to do is mourn a child that is still alive. Addiction is mourning a child that is still alive. I have been in that spot, and it's a horrible place to live your life. I have seen him at his best, and I've seen him at his worst. I have seen him extremely drunk, so high he can barely walk, and passed out from drinking too much in our garage. A few times towards the end, he probably doesn't know this, I would go into his room every hour to make sure he was alive because of how much he had drank. As a mother, that's a very hard thing to watch. And without Jesus, I don't know how I would have done it. We have done things no parent wants to do. Turned him into the police because we knew they were looking for him. Yes, I called the police department to let them know he was going to be at the courthouse for something else. Talk to him through plexiglass, drop him off and pick him up from jail. Made him make a choice to stop using and dealing or stay living with us or leave if he wanted to continue. We knew what the answer would be each time, but we wanted to give him the chance to get his life together. Praise God, one of those things wasn't IDing him from the morgue. God gave me supernatural strength each time we had to do one of those things or face other situations. There's no way I could have done any of that on my own. I had to have complete trust and faith in God. I honestly didn't think he would live past his early 20s, but thankfully, God had a better plan for him. I knew God could save his life, but I also knew that he had free will, and his choices did not reflect a long life. Maybe that's why we made some of the choices we made during this time, because we wanted to spend as much time with him before his life came to an end. After he met Taylor, I knew that day would come. I could see the life in his eyes again, life I hadn't seen for a very long time. I just had to wait for God's timing. Taylor, you have been a blessing to all of us, and have fit right into the family from day one. Thank you for loving him where he was at and being able to see past his past and see who he really is. Your family was also supporting of you dating him and was able to look past his past and give him a chance. A lot of people would not be able to do that, and I love you. Again, I had to have trust and faith that God had a plan that was way better than mine. God gave us an amazing group of supporting friends that would help us pray through our journey. Two of those people were women I went to junior high with, Christy being one of them. Never in a million years would I have thought back then that I would have attended the same church as these women and became close friends, let alone have them, that they would help me pray through my son's journey. God works in mysterious ways. God started putting this group of friends together many years before we needed them. He had us attending the same church many years ago so that we could start forming the bonds we have today. Thank you all for your prayers. God is always working, even when we don't see it. Sometimes I think we just need to step back and look, and we can see him working. One night after we had moved back to Wyoming, there were maybe 15 kids hanging out at our house. Many I didn't know. I had to go out at 9 p.m. to get milk. I don't remember why it was me going and not Mark. On my 8-minute drive to IGA, I heard God tell me, buy these kids snacks. My response was, I'm not going to buy these kids snacks. I don't even like them, and I don't want them hanging out at my house. Again, I heard God tell me, buy them snacks. Again, I argued. While I was at IGA, I heard God tell me again, buy them snacks. At this time, I said, fine, not with a joyful heart. I grabbed chips, cookies, and pop. When I returned home, 2 of the kids I knew came right up to the vehicle to help me carry in what I had bought. I then walked over to Tyler and his close friends and said, here are some snacks for you guys. But if there's any fighting, drug use, or the cops showing up here, it will be the last time you can hang out here. That is when God gave me a huge heart for these kids that many didn't understand. I was listening and obeying what I heard God tell me to do, and I didn't care if anybody understood. All that mattered is I was doing what God had told me to do in these kids' lives. There was one of his friends that I didn't like from the start. He was rude and disrespectful. God changed my heart towards him. Through the years, this kid lived with us twice. According to Tyler, I broke him. One morning, Tyler came down and I was talking with his friend and he was crying. We were having a heart-to-heart about needing to turn himself in for an outstanding warrant. We were also talking about how it wasn't too late for him to be able to achieve his dream of becoming a police officer. Tyler came down and said, Mom, you broke my friend. I didn't say this, but no, son, I didn't. I was planting seeds and loving like Jesus. I now love this kid like he's one of my own. I prayed many times for Tyler to go to jail so that his life would be saved. This is not an easy prayer for a mother to pray. That prayer was answered. Even though I wanted it to happen, it was a hard thing to watch. but I feel like this is one of the steps that saved his life. At the time of his arrest, I worked at our church daycare. God then blessed me with a job that I could do from home, where I worked from 10 to 2 and was able to pick Tyler up from work because he had no license, and also get him to his many court appearances and drug tests. I would have not had that flexibility had I stayed working at the daycare. This gave us a lot of bonding time. Again, God made a way where there was not a way at my old job. He knows all the details that need to happen in our lives. I don't ever feel like our relationship was bad through this, and I think that was because we loved him through it. That doesn't mean there were not boundaries and rules. It just means he knew without a doubt that we loved him no matter what. At least I hope he did. We were also parenting 4 other kids while this madness was going on. We had to be mindful to not let him consume us so that the others didn't feel neglected. I hope that we did a good job at that. We had to trust God to take care of him while we took care of his siblings. It's not an easy thing to do to give up control of your child and let God do what he needs to do, but he knows better than we do what they need. I was very in tune with the Spirit during this time. When I would feel that something was going on, I would send Tawny a message asking what his Snapchat or Instagram looked like. And she had always told him, I won't lie for you, but if Mom and Dad ask, I will tell them the truth. Most of the time, she would respond with something not good. Or I would feel the need to go search his room or even the garage, and most times I would find something. I then knew what to pray for and what to ask all my prayer warriors to pray for. Thankfully, when we didn't hear from Tyler for a few days, I had a few of his friends that I could message and ask if he was still alive. Thankfully, they would always respond with, yes, he is. It was comforting to know that at least he was alive, even though we knew he wasn't in a good spot. I think sometimes we hold on to our kids so tight to keep them safe, God can't do what he needs to do in their lives. Not only did we have all that going on, but in 2015, Malachi broke his arm in October and again in March. Yes, the same arm. He had surgery on that arm in March to put hardware in. He then had surgery 2 weeks before his appendix burst on December 23rd to get the hardware out. And on December 23rd, 2016, his appendix burst and he had surgery to get it removed on December 24th. Him and I spent 13 days in children's hospitals. Oh, and Tyler had his tonsils out and adenoids while Malachi and I were living at Children's. And earlier in the year, Mark also had knee surgery. God had a good sense of humor. Our prayer lives were abundant that year. Thank you again to all our friends for praying us through that also. For many years, while all this was going on, I felt God prompting me to start a group at church for moms with children struggling with addiction. The thought of this terrified me, as does standing up here. But the day came that I felt God saying, now is the time. I listened, and on October 19th, 2015, Moms on a Mission had their first meeting. I wanted to support other moms and women who were going through the same thing as we are, as well as breaking the stigma of drug addiction, especially in the church. We are supposed to love everyone, no matter where they're at, and I feel that it's not always the case in the church. The business card we had for the group had Colossians 1, 9 through 13 on the back. We took out the word you and left a blank space for people to fill in the name of their loved one. I prayed this verse over Tyler many, many times. That strength to do this I got from God. All this time I was planting seeds in these kids. I have seen 3 of them get clean and get real jobs, and 1 of them give their life to the Lord and get baptized. Never once was I afraid of these kids. Maybe I should have been, but I wasn't. That trust came from God. I know if I would have seen a couple of them on the streets and didn't know them, I would have probably moved to the other side of the street. But God didn't place these kids into my life to be fearful of them. He put them in my life so I could show them love and plant seeds. They knew I loved them, even though I knew what they were doing. I was the light in their very dark world. I was loving like Jesus. By the grace of God, Tyler is still alive. I told him that many times after he would tell me things that had went on. God has big plans for you, Tyler. Before you write off a drug addict, remember they are someone's child, and those parents are mourning the loss of their child who is still alive. People don't get up one morning and say, hey, I think I'm going to be a drug addict or a drug dealer. Something leads them down that path. It's a slow fade, and it can happen to all of us if we're not careful. We need to not judge them, but to love them like Jesus does. Don't sweat the small stuff. Love them where they're at. Tomorrow is not promised.
I think you need to give your mom a hug.